Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Over the last 12 months, I've noticed people adding an increasing number of devices to their home. Amazon Echo and Google Home are also tempting people to create their own smart homes. Make no mistake, the smart home is already here. I mean, your home network is no longer just connecting laptops, smartphones and printers, but also now thermostats, security cameras, locks, baby monitors, and even microwaves. All these connected devices are intended to make our lives easier, but they can also be riddled with vulnerabilities, inadequate security, and need to be set up and configured, all adding a whole new level of complexity for consumers. Not everybody is completely tech savvy like myself, and probably you guys listening to the show as well. The fact is that today's home are becoming more and more like a small business network. And those kind of responsibilities also call out for a similar level of security, maintenance and support. And most homeowners don't have the skills or understanding to manage the complexity of their home technology ecosystems, never mind secure them. But I recently came across a company that will bring support and cybersecurity for your smart home and offers a full service support package for all devices within your home, all through a subscription model. So anyone that's interested in setting up their own smart home properly, or even wants to give a number for their auntie and uncle to call so they stop calling them on a Wednesday evening at 9:02, they should really enjoy this episode tonight. So buckle up and hold on tight, because it's time to beam your ears all the way to California so we could speak with Colin Barcelou, the founder of Axius, which is a venture-backed startup creating a platform for device management in smart homes. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Really excited to talk about Axius and the smart home. My name's Colin Barcelou, and I'm the founder and CEO of Axius. And Axius, it provides management and security for your smart home. What that means is we make sure that all of your connected devices are always safe, secure, and functioning. And on top of that, if you ever have a problem, we have a really high-quality concierge help desk that you can call in and get support. Before Axius, I founded a startup called TechMate, which was a company that was doing Uber for tech support, so similar market. And before that, I started a company called bookrenter.com, which was the first textbook rental service on the internet.
Excellent. Now, as an IT guy, I've noticed how people are filling their homes with tech now. And I know this because they call me at 9 p.m. at night when things don't work. But in many cases, there are now more internet-connected devices in people's homes than in their actual office. And I'm talking about here smart thermostats, security cameras, locks, baby monitors, and even microwaves or fridges. And it was at this point that I stumbled across Axius Smart Home Management and Security. But for anyone new to your company, can you tell the listeners about what services you offer and what makes you unique? I mean, you did hint about the kind of service you offer there. I was wondering if you could expand on that a little.
Sure. Yeah, I think that really is the differentiation for Axius, is really at our core, we're a service. And if you look a lot of the other solutions, the security solutions that are in the smart home right now, it's really just another piece of hardware, and it's DIY. So it's expecting the homeowner to basically do everything on their own. And we really feel like that the smart home is complicated, especially as you add more devices. Yeah. And what homeowners really want is a service that will do it for them. And I think it's interesting you mentioned the office, because traditionally in the enterprise world, this notion of IT managed service is very common, where companies or small businesses will have an IT guy that manages their networks and all the devices and computers. And I think what we're seeing with the smart home is the smart home is starting to look a lot more like a small office, with the complexity of the network and the number of devices. So I think there's a very similar model we're trying to take from the enterprise IT world and apply it to the smart home.
So where did all this begin, and what was the inspiration behind Axius? I mean, were you too getting calls at 9 p.m. at night and thought, you know what, I need to create a business out of this?
Yeah, probably like a lot of your listeners, I was getting calls at 9 p.m. from my dad and trying to figure out his computer or the security system. So really my kind of impetus into starting the company was through my own experience with family of having problems. And I just see a world where things are going to get a lot more complicated. It's one thing to try to help people to try to take advantage or try to use their computers or smartphones or even their TVs. But when you think about the smart home, and for your listeners, they should really look at all the different appliances in their homes and realize that in the next 5 years, all that's going to be connected to the internet. Everything from dishwashers to refrigerators to even their locks. And so in that type of setup, it's really complicated. So we see people needing more help than ever with all these devices.
And not only is it about just getting them set up and getting things working, I think I'm also convinced that the average home user is blissfully unaware about their cyber security responsibilities in that smart home. I mean, can you tell me more about the security risks around smart home or IoT devices and how you guys are offering that extra bit of a protection there?
Sure. Well, I think this is going to become a much bigger topic for homeowners in the future. When a homeowner thinks about security, I think right now, it's really about the physical security of their home. But we're convinced as more and more of these devices come online and hackers and other people realize the opportunity they have with all these connected devices, people are going to be just as concerned about their virtual home as they are their physical home. And so in the next 5 years, this is going to be a huge topic. I will first off and say that honestly, half the battle of security is really doing the basics, which is not that complicated, which means having secure updated passwords. And you'd be surprised how many of our customers never change the default password that comes with their devices. We see that all the time.
Admin, right?
Yeah, it's admin or admin password.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing we do is just make sure that everyone has a unique, strong password. And then the second thing is making sure all the devices are up to date. You'd also be surprised how many people just don't patch the firmware or update their software. So that's not very techy or cool, but that's really half of the battle is getting people to do that. I would say the other half is you need continued monitoring. So security threats are constantly changing. Hackers are figuring out different ways to access your devices. So our belief at Axius, which is different than some other companies, is that it's not enough just to have a firewall. You need an ongoing monitoring service that can constantly be looking at your devices and look at what's happening. And what our technology does is it looks at the log files of devices. It looks at the packets that are traveling on the network. We look at the device behavior. We look at traffic, inbound traffic from IP addresses. So I think that's the unique thing is that we're constantly monitoring your network and your devices. Again, very similar to how a security company would be monitoring the alarms in a home. And we're always looking for ongoing threats.
Now, you mentioned other companies there. I mean, what lessons did you learn from other services such as Geek Squad? And what is it that you guys try to do differently from that?
Well, in the last company, TechMade, we competed directly against Geek Squad. And I think what we really realized that the core fundamental problem with Geek Squad is they only offer one-time fixes. Yeah. And the future of IT and the future of the smart home is ongoing support and monitoring. People are no longer going to need just a one-time fix if their desktop breaks or if they have a virus. With so many devices in the home, they're going to need ongoing support. And it may not be, support that requires a 2-hour in-home appointment, but it could be something that needs a 5-minute phone call or a 5-minute chat. So I think their business model is very different. It's all predicated on these one-time appointments. And with smart homes, that doesn't really work. And I think the other interesting thing that's changing in the industry is Geek Squad's a very reactive model. So something breaks, you call them, they show up. Yeah. I think the future of IT support is going to be much more proactive, where, as we've been talking about, you monitor devices, you look for problems, and you try to fix them. And a lot of what our service can do is we can tell you ahead of time if something's wrong, oftentimes even before the homeowner knows about it.
So just to help listeners visualize exactly how your services work, can you just talk me through the kind of packages that you offer at Axius?
Sure. So the way the service works is we have a small piece of networking hardware that we call the Axius Hub, and it's plug-and-play technology where you plug it directly into the router. And once it's plugged into the router, it lights up our SaaS platform. And what our platform first does is it scans the network and recognizes all the devices. And once we do that, we create a unique profile for every customer. So now we know exactly what type of devices you have in the home. And so we build that profile, and then we turn on our monitoring system. So we're constantly running in the background and making sure your network's working and all of your devices. And through this little piece of hardware, that's how we're able to detect problems. We can oftentimes even remote access into the devices. So that's kind of the core of how the system works. And we offer two packages. It's a Plus, which is $14.95 a month, and then the Pro package, which is $24.95 a month. And the difference is with the premium package, you get unlimited access to our help desk, and with the Plus, you get a couple hours a month. So it really depends on how many devices you have. Obviously, the more devices you have, the more support you're going to need.
That's quite reasonable, isn't it? Because I think now internet or being online is the most important utility to many people. And to many younger people, it's more important than water and electricity, isn't it? Because if you've ever had a power cut, if you've ever had a power cut, telling a teenager that there is no internet and they're not going to have internet for 24 hours, the kickback from that is horrendous.
Yeah, it's not worth the headache the parents are going to get, right? Yeah, and it's a really interesting point. You know, kind of our vision of the future with smart homes is that families will have what we call a monthly IT budget that they'll spend on services like Axius. And that will be very commonplace, and it'll be just like paying for a gardener or a pool guy or a maid. You know, part of owning a smart home will be an IT expense, and it will just be commonplace. And so that, I think, monthly spend is going to be very common for people in the future.
Are any of your customers actually surprised when they see just how many things are connected to the internet? Because, the old days, there'd just be a laptop and a tablet and a phone. But now it's your TV, your cable box, it's everything.
Yeah, the average number of devices most of our users have is around 30.
Wow.
Which may seem like a lot, but when you start to think about it, it's not really that much when you think about light bulbs and door locks and shades and fire alarms and thermostats. So yeah, most people are really surprised. But I'll tell you the most common thing that I always love when people tell us is they're surprised of who's connected to the network. Yeah. And a lot of times, it'll be a neighbor that's stealing Wi-Fi or other devices they had no idea. And that's another cool thing about Axius is we can detect that and we can bounce people from the network if the homeowner doesn't want them on there.
Fantastic. Shut them down. Get them out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
So what states do you currently serve in the US? And are there also any plans to franchise this out and do it internationally?
So we're nationwide because the service is virtual. Yeah. We cover all 50 states. Right now, we haven't expanded outside of the country. But obviously, we think there's a huge potential, particularly in Europe. And a lot of the Asian countries that have adopted a lot of IoT devices. So we're certainly looking at that, but right now it's just the United States.
Now, for those that don't feel the need for a lengthy subscription and they just maybe want to set up their smart home for the first time, do you offer any kind of one-stop tech coaching or recommendation kind of programs?
We do, actually, and that's a real popular service we do for people that haven't really fully adopted a smart home yet.
Yeah.
And the way that works is we offer one-time appointments, which are 1 hour, and it's $49 for the hour.
Now, for anyone listening that's either picked up, a Google Home or an Amazon Echo, they're probably now thinking about adding more and more devices to it and dipping their toes slowly into the world of smart homes. Is there anything that you would advise or recommend that's compatible with those kind of devices?
Yeah. So, well, first off, I would just tell your listeners that the process of owning a smart home and owning a connected device, the installation is really the start of it, right? And so when you install a product, that doesn't end what you need to do with your smart home. It really begins it. And, really what's important to think about are all the things we talked about today, which is the security, the maintenance, the monitoring. All that's going to be important, and it becomes even more important as you add in additional devices. And I think on top of that, I would say really think about what features are important to you. and what you want to get. There's obviously thousands of products out there on the market, so at times it can be really overwhelming. And I think you also want to think about, obviously, cost and budget, because depending on where you are, there's a lot of different devices that could serve your purposes. We actually offer a great free tool. It's called the Smart Home Builder. You can go to our website and click on the link, and it will take you through a series of questions based on your needs. And at the end of it, we'll give you a free report that makes a bunch of product recommendations for your own home that's unique and tailored to you.
Wow, that's something that would come in so handy, because I think that kind of smart home landscape at the moment is just so fragmented as everyone tries to lock you into their particular ecosystem. You can end up with just a pile of bridges on the floor, can't you, for your Sonos music station, your Philips lights and everything else. And will my Samsung fridge speak to my LG toaster? Is that a nightmare to support?
It is. I mean, it's very difficult, I think, for the homeowner that's just getting into it for the first time, because, as you said, there's so much complexity in just shopping. Yep. And then once you actually pick something, you have to make it work with your other devices. And so there is so much complexity with that. And that's a great thing that Axius can help you manage all of that and make sure things are connected and working. And the landscape, by the way, I hate to tell this to you, but it's going to get more complex over the next several years, because I think right now in the smart home landscape, what we've seen the last couple of years is really the kind of periphery devices get connected, and those are things like door locks and shades and thermostats. Yeah. The core of the home, which I would say is really the refrigerator, oven, dishwasher, dryer, that stuff has not been connected to the internet yet, but it's going to be. And so now homeowners are really going to see the core technology that runs their home is going to start being connected online. And this is all going to be pushed by the manufacturers. All the major manufacturers have really bought into this and are heavily pushing consumers into connected devices. And I think if you went to CES last year, the big consumer electronics show, you saw all their product lines in the next 3 years are all going connected. So what for good or bad, the devices are going to become smart enabled and connected. And so, in the not so far future, the only option for homeowners will be a connected device.
Now, when we talk about the security of products that we buy as well there, I think something we don't consider, if we go out and buy a new television now, and it's a smart TV, you've got all your apps on there, it's how long the manufacturer's actually going to support that device with security patches and constant downloads, isn't it? I mean, recently I've got a 3-year-old LG smart TV, and there was a software update. In goes the software update, great stuff. Then all the apps have gone, so there's no longer YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, all those apps that I use, and everything was completely in place, ready to go, and the App Store's gone as well. But you didn't think that when you first bought that TV in the store, did you? That was the last thing on your mind.
Yeah, it was the last thing on your mind, and for good or bad, that's why the manufacturers like this, right? Because they can force quicker adoption cycles and force people to upgrade sooner than maybe they want. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's definitely going to be a concern, and I think that just goes to show how really complicated this is, and there's so many factors that you don't even think about when you get into buying one of these devices. Yeah,
I mean, when you buy a washing machine or a TV, you're not going to be looking at the terms and conditions for how many years that device is going to be supported.
No, you won't. And the problem is, people don't want to have to call 20 different numbers to support their home. And that's one of the complexities of smart homes is you're going to have a lot of different manufacturers in the home and that are making the devices you use. So that's a big issue. And then secondly, the support is a cost center for these manufacturers, right? They don't have any incentive to try to provide good support because they've already sold you the product, right? It's just a cost for them after the sale. So I think that to get good support from manufacturers is going to be difficult. And that's really where we come in, and we can be your single point of contact. You just call us, and we can handle all of that for you.
Well, a huge thanks for coming on today. But before I let you go, can you remind the listeners about your website details and how they can reach out to you guys if they've got any questions about what we've talked about today?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It was a real pleasure to talk about the smart home. And your listeners all they have to do is go to our website. It's www.axi.us. And if they have any questions, email us anytime. Our email is hello@axi.us.
Excellent. Well, there's so many complexities that are in that smart home, and most people don't even know how many devices are connected to their own network, and it can be very confusing. But the fact that you're simplifying that and helping people get to where they need to be with tech and take away those pain points is a fantastic thing. So again, a big thank you for coming on.
Yep, that's what it's all about. Thanks a lot.
I love this concept. I mean, I think people are increasingly filling their homes with smart products. And I think everybody here has seen the meltdown a family goes through when everything goes offline or things just stop working. If people are happy to pay people to service their cars, home heating, etc., why shouldn't they have something in place for that stressful moment when tech goes bad? So while the smart home is here to stay, all of these connected devices intended to make our life easier can actually be riddled with vulnerabilities, inadequate security, and complicated setup and maintenance problems. And this needs to be taken seriously by everybody. I don't think a lot of people are realising yet just how many devices are connected to their home networks and how many are going to be connected again within the next 5 years. And also, most importantly, ensure the best standards are being used right across your home network is another subject that we need to be tackling. So as this is a tech show, I would imagine that most of you listening already know about all this kind of stuff. But the question I'm going to leave you with is, would you gladly point your relatives, friends and colleagues in a direction of a service like this if it did stop you from being their unpaid IT support over the weekend? So please get in touch, let me know your thoughts. You can catch me at techblogwriter@outlook.com or on Twitter at Neil C. Hughes. So I'm going to log into my network now and see just how many devices are actually logged in there. It's no good me preaching to you all. I need to find out that I've got 82 devices on my network that I know nothing about. So I'm going to go check that out. I urge you to do the same. But essentially, that's it for this episode. So all that's left for me to say is a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.